Jenny Carter grew up with nothing, but she lived by the belief that hard work could take you anywhere. Every day she sold pork cracklings on the street to save up money for college because her parents didn't earn enough to support her education. Rain or shine, Jenny pushed through, determined to chase her dreams. But one day, while she was selling near an empty field, she unexpectedly heard the sound of a baby crying in the tall grass. Startled, she followed the sound and found a newborn. In a panic, she flagged down a car to take the baby to the hospital. When the car stopped in front of her, she was stunned. The driver who stepped out was none other than Raphael Summers, the CEO of a luxury beach resort. He was the same man she had rescued once, thinking he was drowning in the ocean. What she never expected was that he would later propose marriage to her, offering $100 million right in the middle of the sea. She had rejected him, convinced it was a scam. Now that fate had brought them together again because of the baby, would Jenny finally accept Raphael's proposal? Pork cracklings. Get your pork cracklings here. Cheap and tasty, folks, Jenny cheerfully called out as she walked along the roadside. Her smile never left her face, even as beads of sweat trickled down her forehead. She wiped them off with a small towel slung over her shoulder. Jenny Carter, 26 years old, was full of energy, despite living in poverty. She was saving every cent she earned so she could enroll in college the following semester. Her parents worked hard, but their income wasn't enough to cover tuition fees. So every day, no matter the season, be it the cold of winter or the heat of summer, Jenny was out there, selling pork cracklings to get closer to her dream. She had a round face with warm, expressive eyes that sparkled like stars. Her nose was modestly pointed, and her lips a natural rose-red hue. Her skin had a sun-kissed tone, and her shoulder-length black hair fell straight and smooth. Standing at just 5'3", she wasn't tall, but what she lacked in height, she made up for with inner and outer beauty. Jenny stopped mid-step when a familiar sedan pulled up beside her. An elderly man stepped out of the car. "Good afternoon, sir," Jenny greeted with a bright smile. "You're buying pork cracklings again." This older gentleman had become one of her regular customers, buying from her almost every day. "Yes, sweetheart," the old man replied. "I'll buy everything you have today, so you can go home and rest early." His face was weathered, lined with age, easily placing him in his mid-60s. But even at a glance, his strong stance revealed a life of hard work and reliability. Jenny's face lit up. "Really, sir? Oh my gosh, this is the first time I've ever sold out in one day. Thank you so much." The old man scratched his head, even though he was bald. "Well, the truth is, my boss is the one who asked me to buy them. He said your pork cracklings were delicious." Jenny's eyes widened in surprise. "Really? Your boss sounds like a kind person. Is he in the car? I'd like to thank him." "Oh, he's already at work," the man said with a chuckle. "But he was with me the other day, actually. He saw you then, while you were selling on the sidewalk." There was a hint of amusement in the man's smile as he spoke, almost like he was giddy about something. Even though Jenny didn't get the chance to thank the mysterious boss, she went home happy that day. Maybe next time the man would be with his boss again, and she could finally express her gratitude. After all, this person was apparently one of her loyal customers. The next day, Jenny found herself at a beach resort, selling her pork cracklings near the shoreline where large crowds had gathered. Luckily, the resort owner was kind enough to allow local vendors to sell nearby. She was allowed to sell her snacks there. Since only a few people were swimming in the ocean, she was getting a lot of customers when suddenly a woman nearby screamed, "Someone's drowning! A man is drowning!" Her shout caused a stir and panic among the people around. When Jenny heard it, she noticed that a man appeared to be getting swallowed by the strong waves. Because she was raised by her parents to always help those in need, Jenny didn't hesitate for a second. She left her basket of pork cracklings on the sand and rushed into the ocean to rescue the man. The water was freezing, and she immediately felt it all over her body. She dove under the waves and began swimming deeper, aiming to reach the man. After several minutes of swimming, she had already gone quite far when she saw the man floating on the surface of the water. As she got closer, she wrapped her arm around his neck to pull him back towards shore. But just as she started swimming with his body, she was startled when he spoke. "Miss, wait! I can't breathe! You're choking me!" the man shouted, which made Jenny stop what she was doing. She turned to him in shock, and when their eyes met, she saw that he looked just as surprised to see her. "Miss, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be out selling?" The man didn't finish his sentence because Jenny cut in. "Weren't you drowning? So, you actually know how to swim?" Jenny asked in disbelief. The man gave a small laugh and shook his head. "Drowning? I wasn't drowning, miss. I'm sorry if it looked like that. This is just how I am when I'm in the water. I let my body flow with the waves. I've just been thinking about a lot of things. This is how I calm my mind," he explained, brushing his wet hair with his hand. Jenny let out a sarcastic chuckle and frowned. "Well, because of your way of calming down, a lot of people thought you were drowning. Maybe next time, try to look like you're having fun. Smile or laugh while you're being tossed around by the waves so people won't assume you're dying." She shook her head and turned to swim away, planning to leave him there in the middle of the ocean, but she froze when he grabbed her by the waist underwater. "Hey, wait! What are you doing, mister? Get your hands off my waist!" Jenny exclaimed. But the man still didn't let go. "I think I just found the solution to my problem," he said with a grin that made Jenny raise an eyebrow. "Eddie, congrats. But can you let me go now? I still have pork cracklings to sell." "You can't leave yet, because you are the solution to my problem," he said, stopping her. Jenny furrowed her brow when she heard that. "What did you just say? I'm the solution to your problem? Why? What's your problem, and why are you dragging me into it?" She was puzzled, all while the waves kept crashing into their bodies. "I won't beat around the bush, miss. Are you willing to marry me for $50 million? He asked bluntly. Jenny's eyes went wide. She couldn't even speak from the shock. She stayed silent for a few seconds. "Silence means yes, miss. Sorry. I don't have a ring with me right now, so I'll just do this," he said, before bringing his face close to hers. And in just a moment, he kissed her on the lips. It was a quick kiss, but Jenny's eyes almost popped out of her head in shock. She immediately touched her lips in disbelief. Her face was filled with anger and irritation, and she couldn't stop herself from grabbing the man by the hair. "You jerk! Why did you kiss me? Did I say yes to your proposal? Huh? Did I? I already have enough problems in my life, and now you're dragging me into yours," she shouted in anger. Jenny continued yanking on the man's wet hair as she yelled at him. "Miss, let go of my hair. If 50 million isn't enough, I'll give you 100 million. Just agree to what I'm offering," the man shouted, now holding onto both of her arms to stop her. Jenny let out an annoyed laugh. 100 million just to be your bride? You know, mister, I may be emotionally numb sometimes, but I'm not stupid enough to agree to what you're asking. What if you're a scammer? That's a huge amount of money. And scams are everywhere these days," she snapped, finally letting go of his hair. "What did you just say? A scammer? With a face like this? Do I even look like a scammer to you?" the man asked, shaking his head. "Sorry, mister. I know you're good-looking, but I have major trust issues with people I don't know," Jenny replied seriously. "In that case, miss, let me introduce myself. I'm Raphael Summers. Now that you know who I am, do you still have trust issues with me?" he asked with a raised brow. Raphael Summers, 30 years old, was the CEO of a beach resort. To receive the inheritance and properties his grandmother intended to pass on to him, he first had to get married. If he didn't present a wife, the inheritance would go to someone else. But Jenny didn't believe any of it. She was convinced he was a scammer. Unbeknownst to her, this was the same man she had wanted to thank, the very customer who had been sending someone to buy her pork cracklings. He was incredibly handsome and charismatic, with captivating eyes, a sharp nose, lips that looked soft and pink, smooth skin, and a perfectly shaped jawline. He stood around 6 feet 1 inch, and his muscular build made it obvious he worked out daily. "I don't know what to say to you. I'm leaving now. Maybe I'll let the sharks eat you," Jenny said, shooting him a glare before diving underwater and swimming back toward shore. Raphael could only laugh and shake his head as he watched her swim away. That night, Jenny got home to their small, simple house. It was a little muddy inside because of the heavy rain the night before. Their home was also close to the ocean. "Sis, why didn't you say yes? Why didn't you use your brain?" her sister Dana said, as Jenny recounted what had happened earlier. "My gosh, that was $100 million. You just let that go. If you'd agreed, we'd be rich by now. We could have built a huge house with air conditioning." Dana Garcia, Jenny's younger sister, was only 10 years old. "Excuse me, Dana. Are you calling your sister stupid just because I didn't agree to marry that guy for $100 million? Jenny said, hands on her hips. "What if he's a scammer? What if we got married, went on a honeymoon, and he harvested my organs to sell them? Then you'd all be crying when I ended up dead somewhere." Dana just shook her head before speaking again. "But sis, did he tell you his name? Did you even get his name?" Jenny paused for a moment, trying to remember. Then something clicked. "Raphael Summers," she said, without much interest. "Raphael Summers? That name sounds rich and handsome. Hang on, let me look him up on Google," Dana said, pulling her old cell phone from her shorts pocket. Curious, Jenny moved closer to Dana to sneak a look as her sister typed his name into the search box. When Dana found the search results, she nearly dropped her phone from shock. Jenny instinctively covered her mouth. "Sis, is this the guy you were talking about?" Dana asked, wide-eyed. "That's him, Dana," Jenny said, stammering. "One of the most successful businessmen, CEO of a well-known beach resort, and he owns several other businesses too," Dana said in amazement as she read an article online. "He's not a scammer, sis. He's a billionaire." "Okay, so he's a billionaire, but that guy is so full of himself. I hadn't even answered his proposal yet, and he already kissed me. He said, 'Silence means yes.' Can you believe that?" "What a nerve," Jenny said angrily. She was still fuming. The guy had stolen her first kiss. All she wanted now was to never cross paths with him again. The next day, Jenny woke up early to start selling pork cracklings again. As usual, some students passed by and stopped to buy from her. She had already walked quite far by late morning, and the sun was scorching hot. Soon after, she clutched her lower belly. She felt the sudden urge to pee. It was hard to hold in, so when she passed by a weedy, deserted area, she didn't hesitate to step into the tall grass. She was about to pull down her black pants when she suddenly froze. "Wait, why do I hear a baby crying?" There was no way a baby would be out here in the grass. Maybe she was just hearing something else. Before she could finish that thought, the sound came again, clearer this time. Driven by curiosity, Jenny took a few steps toward the direction of the sound. She stopped when she reached a pile of trash, and there she saw a small cardboard box. Her hands were shaking as she reached out and opened it. When she finally peeled it open, she was stunned by what she saw. "Oh my God, why is there a poor baby out here in the weeds?" she gasped. Carefully, she picked up the baby from the cardboard box. By the looks of it, the baby couldn't be more than 3 months old. It was still crying uncontrollably as Jenny held it in her arms. She could feel the baby's body was quite warm. "Oh no, baby, you must have a fever," she said in concern. "Don't worry, I'll take you to the hospital." Jenny was now standing by the side of the road when she spotted a car approaching. Desperate, she stepped closer to the middle of the street, waving her hand to stop it. She succeeded. The car came to a full stop in front of her. But her eyes widened in shock when the driver stepped out of the luxury car. "Miss, do you realize I'm in a hurry? Why are you standing in the middle of the road?" Raphael stopped talking the moment he recognized her face. "I can't believe we've crossed paths again. After you pulled my hair yesterday," he said, just as surprised. But Jenny wasn't in the mood for an argument. Instead of reacting, she handed him her basket of pork cracklings. Raphael accepted it with confusion. "If you have something to say it later. Just put my goods in the back of your car and help me bring this poor baby to the hospital," Jenny pleaded. It was only then that Raphael noticed she was carrying a baby. He didn't think twice about helping. He drove fast, and in less than an hour they arrived at the nearest hospital. As they entered, Jenny immediately asked for help from a nurse. The nurse quickly took the baby from her arms and brought him into a room for treatment. After almost 30 minutes of waiting, the door to the room finally opened. Jenny and Raphael stood up as the nurse came out. "Ma'am, sir, you don't need to worry. The baby's fever has gone down, but he'll still need to stay here for a few days," the nurse informed them. Both Jenny and Raphael were caught off guard when the nurse assumed they were a couple. "Oh, nurse, this man isn't my husband," Jenny quickly corrected. "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I just assumed," the nurse said, scratching her head. Then she continued, which made Jenny even more anxious about the baby's condition. "Based on our observation, the baby has a weak immune system. One of the likely reasons is low birth weight. He'll need full attention and proper care, including good nutrition," the nurse added, before walking away. Jenny stood there speechless, overwhelmed with pity for the baby. She couldn't understand how there could be parents who would just leave their child in the weeds like trash, ready to be thrown away. They had already fed the baby with the free breast milk provided by the hospital. He'd also taken vitamins and had his diaper changed. "So why is he still crying?" Jenny asked, worried. Suddenly, an idea came to her. She picked up the baby from the crib and held him in her arms. While seated, she turned the baby toward Raphael. "Raphael, I think he's bored because he doesn't have anyone to play with. So, to keep him from feeling lonely, make him laugh," she said with a grin. Raphael frowned. "Bored, Jenny? He's only 3 months old. Maybe he's just naturally fussy. What do you want me to do?" "Dance like a dog," Raphael replied, chuckling a little. But then they were both startled when the baby suddenly giggled. "Oh, did you see that, Raphael? He stopped crying. I think he wants to see you dancing." "Right, baby Joe," Jenny said with a smile as she looked at the baby. The baby giggled again, kicking both legs energetically like he was excited. "I'm going to bed, Jenny. I have work tomorrow. If you want someone to dance, do it yourself." "You came up with the idea," Raphael said, shaking his head and starting to walk out of the room. But just as he stepped out, baby Joe burst into loud sobs again. "Baby Joe says, 'Here comes Doggy, about to dance. Doggy, wag your tail.'" Jenny turned to Raphael and widened her eyes at him to make him follow along. "Dog? Jenny, do I look like a dog to you?" Raphael said, trying not to laugh, but his voice was tinged with resistance. Jenny was about to speak, but they both froze when the baby's crying grew louder and more frantic. "Doggy, bark for him. Maybe that'll calm baby Joe down," Jenny said with a sweet smile, gently rocking the baby in her arms. She gave Raphael another stern look to get him to comply. Raphael just sighed deeply and rubbed his temples. It was only their first night together as a married couple, and he already felt completely stressed. But with no choice, since the baby was still crying, he did what Jenny wanted. He barked several times. "There you go, Doggy," Jenny cheered. "See? Baby's smiling again." The baby was now kicking his feet playfully. "Oh, he's laughing again. He says bark again, Doggy, but this time shake your butt," Jenny said happily, looking over at Raphael. Even though Raphael had a sour look on his face, he followed along anyway. He barked again, this time wiggling his hips. While baby Joe giggled at Raphael's antics, Jenny laughed so hard she nearly cried. Eventually, the baby settled down and finally fell asleep. It was only their first night together, but so much had already happened. Jenny and baby Joe were having the time of their lives. One person, however, wasn't quite as thrilled. The next morning, Jenny woke up as sunlight hit her face through the open window. She rubbed her eyes, but what she didn't expect was to find herself asleep on Raphael's shoulder, his arm still draped over hers, and the two of them sharing one blanket. She touched her forehead, realizing they had fallen asleep in the baby's room so they could watch over him longer. It wouldn't have been safe to leave him alone. Jenny gently lifted Raphael's arm off her shoulder so she could stand up from the floor. But when she noticed he was about to wake up, she didn't know why, but she quickly shut her eyes and pretended to be asleep. She felt Raphael rise slightly. She thought he was about to leave the room, but then she was surprised when she felt herself being lifted in his arms. Even while pretending to sleep, she couldn't help but wonder where he was taking her. When she peeked slightly, she realized they were heading toward the guest room. As soon as they entered, she felt a soft bed beneath her body. Raphael had placed her on the king-size mattress. He even adjusted the comforter around her. "I know you were exhausted last night, laughing at me non-stop. So rest up," Raphael whispered in a husky voice. Jenny thought he was about to leave, but then froze when she felt his lips brush against her forehead. She was completely shocked inside, but by the time she opened her eyes, he was already gone from the guest room. "What was that? Why did he kiss me on the forehead?" Jenny whispered to herself in surprise. She even touched both her cheeks as they started to heat up. Still, since they'd only gotten to sleep around dawn, sleep pulled her back in, and she dozed off again on the more comfortable bed. When she woke up, she was surprised to find that it was already noon, and she could feel her stomach growling. She left the guest room, went downstairs, and found Raphael's grandmother in the living room. "Dear, do you still not know who the baby's parents are? Someone needs to teach them a lesson. What they did was unacceptable," the elderly woman said to Raphael. Her name was Grandma Margaret, 70 years old. Her face was lined with wrinkles, but her presence was commanding in her elegant clothes. Jenny had met her the day before at church and immediately found her warm and kind, not at all snobbish. Jenny had felt comfortable around her right away. "No, Grandma, there wasn't any CCTV in the area. We asked around where the baby was left, but no one knew anything. So up to now, we still don't know who the parents are," Raphael replied. The elderly woman was about to say something else, but then turned toward Jenny when she saw her. "Oh dear, you're awake. Looks like my grandson wore you out last night. No wonder you slept in. Hopefully you'll have a baby of your own soon," she said cheerfully while holding baby Joe. Jenny was a little surprised at what she said, but her next comment shocked her even more. "Seems like you two didn't finish what you started last night. Huh, Raphael?" Grandma Margaret said, smiling mischievously. "Tell you what, don't go to work today. In fact, take a whole month off. I'll run the company while you two focus on making a baby." When the elderly woman left, neither of them could say a word in protest. So now, Jenny would be living under the same roof with Raphael and the baby every day for an entire month. Suddenly, an idea popped into her mind to make things a little more fun and exciting. "But wouldn't it be boring if we just stayed in this big house for the whole month?" she said with a smile. "Why don't we go stay at a simpler place, where it's happier?" she added, still smiling, while Raphael simply frowned at her in confusion. "What kind of smile is that, Jenny? Isn't this big house enough for you?" Raphael asked. "Where exactly is this so-called simple but happy house you're talking about?" Jenny just grinned wider. "You'll know once we get there." That afternoon, their trip took 3 hours before they finally arrived at the place Jenny had in mind. They looked like they were going on vacation, with 2 large suitcases in tow. Jenny was the first to get out of the car, cradling the sleeping baby Joe in her arms. She smiled upon seeing her younger sister, Dana, sweeping outside their house. When Jenny called her name, Dana turned toward her in surprise. "Ate, what are you doing here?" she said, clearly shocked. Then she noticed the baby, and Raphael, who was stepping out of the driver's seat. Dana quickly called out to their parents inside the house. "Mom! Dad! Pause your karaoke. Come outside. Ate's here with a baby, and her super handsome husband." She shouted over the noise, as their parents were busy belting out a karaoke duet of Alone by Heart. Their voices were so loud the entire neighborhood could hear. "I didn't know your parents were singers, Jenny," Raphael said, chuckling. "Yeah, singing's how we bond when there's nothing else going on," Jenny whispered back. Moments later, her parents came out of the house, still a little dazed from their impromptu concert. Her mom even scratched her head and looked slightly annoyed. "Why'd you call us out here, honey? I was just about to sing One Week Love by Imelda Poppin," her mother whined. Josephine Carter, age 48, was Jenny's loving and caring mum. Her skin was a rich brown tone, and her face had visible lines from years of hard work. She made a living selling fish at the local market. "Jenny, sweetheart, what are you doing here?" her mum asked. Raphael, son, you're here too. And you've got a baby with you, and 2 suitcases. What's going on? She asked, shocked as she took in the scene. Did something happen at your place? Her dad asked with concern. Armando Carter, age 54, was a hard-working and resourceful father. Despite his age, he was still strong and worked tirelessly to support their family. He made a living as a fisherman. Mum, Dad, Jenny began. Raphael and I decided to stay here for a month. It's kind of boring living in that big house with just the 3 of us. So we thought, why not spend some time here instead? That's so, her mum replied. Well, that's totally fine with us. Your dad and I are actually happy you're here, and with such a cute baby too. Let me hold him, sweetie. Even if that little one can't feel the love of his real parents, she added warmly, we're all here to shower him with as much love as we possibly can. Everyone smiled after that heartfelt statement. Jenny's parents took the baby inside, leaving her outside with Raphael and Dana. But Dana suddenly turned to Raphael and said, By the way, Kuya Raphael, since my sister agreed to marry you for a contract marriage, is she still going to get the 100 million? You know, just like you offered before. She gave him an apologetic smile. Sorry, but people like us, poor folks, kind of always think about money. Dana, be quiet, Jenny said firmly, embarrassed. Then she turned to Raphael. I'm sorry. Turns out my little sister knows about our pretend setup too. I guess it's not just my parents. Raphael just let out a laugh and turned toward Dana. Don't worry, Dana. I'm a man of my word. I'll still give your sister what we agreed on. Wow, Kuya Raphael. You're really rich, huh? Dana said, grinning. But, why don't you two just make it real already? You and my sister look good together anyway. Dana, go inside the house. You're saying too much, Jenny said, glaring, but Dana only laughed. Oh, come on, Ate, Jenny. You look annoyed, but I can tell you're blushing, she teased, before finally heading inside the house. That left Jenny and Raphael alone outside. In the end, Jenny just laughed and shook her head at how silly her family could be. You saw that, Raphael. That's how crazy my family is. You better get used to it, she said, still chuckling. Raphael simply shook his head in amusement as they followed the others into the house. That night, they all gathered around the dining table and shared a meal together. Their long dining table was made entirely of wood, just like the chairs. Of course, before eating, they first took care of baby Joe and rocked him to sleep in the small crib they had brought with them. Wow, dinner smells amazing tonight. Clams in coconut cream, Jenny said with a smile, resting one foot up on her chair. I cooked that, sweetheart, her dad said proudly. Good thing you're here, because I know clams in coconut cream is your favorite. Son, Raphael, have you ever tried clams in coconut cream? Her mom asked, who was sitting right next to him. Ah, no, ma'am. I've never tried that before. How exactly do you eat it? Raphael asked shyly. Oh, it's delicious, son. You're lucky. You'll get to try it tonight, her mum said. Sweetie, why don't you teach your husband how to eat clams properly? Jenny smiled and turned to Raphael. Okay, babe, I'll show you the right way to eat them. First, she said, picking one up, you take one out like this. Copy me. Raphael followed her lead and picked up a clam. Second, hold it up to your lips, not your eyes, your lips, she said with a playful smile, while the rest of the family shook their heads, smiling at her antics. Raphael, though confused, brought the clam to his lips. Third, kiss it, Jenny said, but do it with feeling. She even closed her eyes and lightly kissed the clamshell. Now you, babe. Do it like I just did, she told Raphael. Raphael frowned. He wasn't sure if Jenny was teasing him or what, but since he was sitting with her whole family, he followed her instructions. He closed his eyes and kissed the clam. Jenny suddenly burst out laughing. She clutched her stomach, laughing so hard she almost couldn't breathe, while her family just shook their heads at her. 8! That's not how you eat clams, her sister Dinah said, shaking her head. Sweetie, don't tease your husband like that. He comes from a wealthy background, Of course, he wouldn't know how to eat food like this, her mom added gently, while her dad just shook his head in disapproval. Well, what can I say, Mom? He totally fell for it, Jenny said, laughing again. But she stopped abruptly when she noticed the serious look on Raphael's face. She suddenly felt nervous under his intense stare. Raphael took a bite before speaking again. Okay, fine. I'm serious now, babe. Here's how you really eat clams, Jenny said quickly, feeling guilty. First, you suck on the shell until the meat comes out. Then remove the tip. And that's it. You eat it. Pair it with rice and coconut broth. Don't use a spoon or fork. It's better to eat with your hands. Jenny explained to Raphael properly this time, and finally, everyone started eating dinner. After dinner, Jenny suddenly realized something. She and Raphael would be sleeping in the same room that night. Sweetheart, Baby Joe will sleep in our room tonight, so you and your husband can rest well. I know that trip must have been exhausting, her mom said with a kind smile. It's okay, Mom. You don't have to. But before Jenny could finish, her mother had already walked away with the baby in her arms, grinning as she did. Now that they were alone in a small room, Jenny couldn't explain why she was feeling anxious and sweaty. She turned toward Raphael when he finally spoke. His expression clearly showed he wasn't happy. Jenny, do you realize what you did to me earlier? He said, serious and upset. You embarrassed me in front of your parents. Eddie, I'm sorry, okay? But come on. You were still handsome even when I was teasing you, Jenny said with a nervous laugh. But her laughter died instantly when she noticed a large beetle stuck to Raphael's white shirt. Raphael, don't move. There's a huge beetle on your shirt, Jenny said cautiously. But Raphael didn't believe her. He shook his head and put his hands on his waist. What is it now, Jenny? You think I'm going to fall for that again? You're messing with me again, aren't you? He snapped, irritated. Jenny chuckled and put her hands on her hips too. If you don't want to believe me, fine, I'm going to sleep. Good night, she said, lying down on the floor mat they had set earlier, with a mosquito net hanging to keep the bugs away. Once she was lying comfortably on the mat, she closed her eyes to sleep. But just seconds later, she covered her ears when she heard Raphael scream. Jenny, help me! It's crawling down! It might go into my shorts! He yelled in panic. Jenny sighed and yawned before sitting up on the mat. Oh my God, seriously? This is what you get for not believing me earlier, she said, shaking her head and scratching her head in frustration. She walked over to help Raphael, but what shocked her was that he was now shirtless. His toned chest was completely exposed to her. He had taken off his shirt earlier after spotting the beetle on it. Jenny, help me. It's in my shorts, Raphael cried, trembling. Jenny frowned when she realized there was no beetle in his shorts at all. Still, she knelt in front of him to inspect closely. Both her knees were on the floor and her hands were now resting on his waist. But she didn't realize that Raphael looked even more shocked the moment she suddenly knelt in front of him. All of Raphael's fear of the beetle had shifted onto Jenny. He stood completely frozen where he was, unable to move. There's nothing in your shorts, Jenny said. It must have crawled away. When their eyes met, she noticed both of Raphael's ears were red. He wasn't moving, and his face was stiff with shock. Oh, come on, Raphael. It's just a beetle. You should be more scared of what crawled into your life, me, Jenny said, shaking her head. But before long, Raphael screamed again. He had just felt the beetle inside his shorts. Jenny's eyes widened when she saw Raphael's hands go to the waistband of his shorts, as if he was about to take them off. Raphael, don't tell me you're actually going to... Jenny didn't finish her sentence, because right at that moment, the bedroom door suddenly swung open. They had completely forgotten to lock it earlier, and there stood her entire family, catching Raphael with his shorts halfway down. Jenny was frozen in shock, but Raphael was even more mortified. He yanked his shorts up so fast it didn't matter that everyone still saw his grey boxer briefs, with a big yellow smiley face on the back. Jenny's family couldn't help but assume something suspicious was going on in the room. Oh my God, her mum muttered. We thought a snake had gotten into your room because of how loud Raphael screamed. We didn't realize it was just, well, the two of you getting overexcited. If you're going to do something in here, she added with a sigh, at least keep the volume down, will you? Her dad just shook his head, while her little sister Dana covered her mouth in shock. Jenny was about to explain herself, her mouth open to speak, but her mom had already grabbed her dad and sister by the arms and quickly pulled them out of the room, slamming the door shut behind her. When Jenny turned to Raphael, she saw that his entire face had gone red. The embarrassment was written all over him. But Jenny, she burst into uncontrollable laughter. "Oh my God, Raphael, you just keep finding new ways to entertain me tonight," she said, holding her stomach as she laughed. Raphael scowled. "You're still laughing, Jenny. Meanwhile, I just got humiliated in front of your parents. Again." He began walking slowly toward her. "Well, whose idea was it to start taking off their shorts?" she said, trying to catch her breath. "Now we've seen something we weren't supposed to see. And now what? How am I supposed to sleep tonight, Raphael?" She didn't finish her sentence, because Raphael suddenly kissed her on the lips. It was a quick kiss, but Jenny stood frozen in place, stunned. Her heart started racing. She could feel the heat rushing into her cheeks, and she swore there were butterflies going wild in her stomach. Why did you kiss me?" she asked in disbelief, her hand flying to her lips. "To shut you up," Raphael said in his now raspy voice. "You were laughing non-stop, like it's my fault you won't be able to sleep tonight. So I kissed you. Problem solved." He spoke with a teasing grin on his lips and both eyebrows raised playfully. But it looked like Jenny was in more trouble now, because after that kiss, she might find it even harder to sleep tonight. "Jenny, go to sleep. It was just a kiss," Raphael said, smirking. "Don't overthink it. It's not like it'll kill you." Her mind wandered while they were both lying on the sleeping mat, backs turned away from each other. In the days that followed, Jenny started noticing that something was changing inside her. She used to find Raphael's antics annoying, even laughable, but now she started needing his presence. She couldn't even look him straight in the eyes anymore. Every time they made the slightest physical contact, even just their hands brushing against each other, her heart would race like crazy, like she was losing her mind. "Mom, Dad, why do you look like a couple of worms sprinkled with salt when you dance?" Jenny teased while holding baby Joe in her arms. Her parents were blasting old music from the stereo and dancing their hearts out in the middle of the living room, and everyone was cracking up laughing. Even baby Joe was squealing with laughter as he watched the two older folks twirling and grooving. They'd decided to entertain the baby, thinking he must be getting bored just lying in his little crib all the time. "Hey, Jenny, Raphael, it's your turn to dance," Dana said with a grin while holding up her phone, clearly recording them. "Come on, make baby Joe laugh again. He's not smiling anymore. He's bored of watching old people dance." "Come on, Dana," Jenny said, laughing and shaking her head. "If I start dancing, baby Joe might end up crying instead." But the moment her eyes met Raphael's, she quickly looked away. She didn't know why, but she still couldn't forget the kiss he gave her that night, even after several days had passed. "I'll dance if Jenny dances," Raphael suddenly said, boldly. The room erupted with cheers and applause. "Oh, sweetie, your husband's totally game. Don't back down," her mom encouraged with a wide smile. "It's just a bit of fun, and baby Joe needs to see how happy and close-knit our family is." Dinah walked up to her, whispering, "Eight, this feels different. Are you starting to like him for real? Are you two making this marriage legit? Is he going to be my real brother-in-law now?" Jenny's eyes widened in disbelief. "Like him? Are you kidding me, Dana? How could I like someone who's afraid of beetles?" "Really?" Dana teased. "If you don't like him, then prove it. Go dance with him right now." Jenny had no choice. In the end, she gave in and went along with her family's antics. She and Raphael danced the Otso Otso together, the classic dance hit from the early 2000s. To her surprise, she actually enjoyed it, especially when she saw how happy baby Joe looked, watching them dance with huge smiles on their faces. Her family was laughing so hard they had to hold their stomachs. "Wow," her mum said, still carrying baby Joe, who was still grinning from ear to ear. You two were made for each other. You even danced the Otso Otso in sync. Well, of course he got it from me, her dad said proudly. Our kid's a natural dancer just like me. After she and Raphael finished their silly dance, Jenny was sweating. She was about to wipe her forehead with her hand when she felt a warm palm pressed gently against her skin. Raphael's. He was wiping the sweat off her forehead himself. Honey, it's okay, Jenny said softly. I can wipe my own sweat. My hands won't be useful if I don't use them. But Raphael continued gently dabbing her face with a soft cloth. I know you've got hands, babe, Raphael said in a tender voice, but I don't want them to get tired if I can do it for you. His voice was gentle and affectionate, so much that it made her furrow her brows, but deep inside she couldn't deny the butterflies in her stomach. Even if they were only pretending, a part of her was undeniably swooning. Jenny opened her mouth to say something, but Dana beat her to it. Oh, wow, just look at Jenny. She's totally blushing. Sis, I think you're seriously falling for Raphael, Dana teased, grinning from ear to ear as she kept recording with her phone. Jenny and Raphael both froze in surprise at Dana's remark. Even Dana herself looked stunned by what she had just blurted out. She immediately clamped a hand over her mouth. Dana, sweetie, what makes you say your sister's falling for Raphael? Asked Josefina, their mother, with a puzzled look on her face. They love each other so much. That's why they got married. Her father, Armando, looked equally confused, but nodded in agreement. Jenny immediately jumped in, afraid the act would be exposed. Oh no, Mom, she said quickly. I think what Dana meant was that I'm just falling even deeper in love with Raphael. I mean, who wouldn't? Look how handsome and sweet he is. That's why I love this man so much, she added with a smile, pinching both of Raphael's cheeks playfully. Oh, I see now, her mum said with a beaming smile. Well, it really shows. You two clearly love each other. Even her dad smiled and nodded in approval, but just then, Raphael leaned in closer to her, tilting his head slightly so he could whisper into her ear. What he said next made Jenny's heart do backflips. You're really good at pretending we're in love, Jenny, but keep that up and I just might fall for you for real, he whispered mischievously. Her heart nearly exploded. The next morning, Jenny's father invited Raphael to go fishing out in the bay. To her surprise, Raphael agreed without hesitation. That's when she realized he really could get along with ordinary people despite his high status. Ate, you need to come out here right now. Dana suddenly burst into the house, running toward Jenny, who was in the middle of taking care of baby Joe. What's going on? Jenny asked, concerned. Your husband, Raphael, is literally being swarmed by all the women in the neighborhood right now. He just got back from fishing with Dad, and the second he stepped off the boat, they mobbed him. Jenny's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't hide the startled look on her face. It's okay, Dana, she said in a shaky voice. Our love isn't even real, remember? For all we know, he might end up meeting the real love of his life here. But even as she said that, she couldn't deny the jealousy starting to brew deep in her chest. Dana shook her head and grabbed her sister's arm. Come on, you have to see this with your own eyes. They stepped outside together, and from where they stood near the porch, Jenny could clearly see the docks. And there was Raphael, shirtless, his toned chest on full display, surrounded by a group of giggling, overly touchy women. Jenny's jaw clenched. Her blood boiled when she saw one of them actually caress his chest with her hand. Her eye twitched. She was officially not okay. Oh, sis, she's doing that right in front of you, Dana hissed, clearly annoyed. Are you seriously just going to let that slide? Even baby Joe looks mad now. Look at his face. He's totally serious. Go on, sis. Don't let those shameless flirts win. You're the only one who has the right to flirt with your husband. Jenny's anger spiked even more when she saw one of the women steal a kiss on Raphael's cheek. That was it. She'd had enough. Without another word, she stepped forward with determination, baby Joe cradled firmly in one arm, and marched toward the docks. Hey, handsome, why haven't we seen you around here before? Cooed one of the women in a crop top, her cheeks smeared in bright red blush that made her look like a circus clown. "Now that you're here, this neighborhood finally has some eye candy," she added with a sly grin. Another woman, clinging to Raphael's arm like she owned it, chimed in next. "Hey, cutie, do you have any plans today? Looks like you and Mr. Armando are done fishing anyway. Why don't you come by my place later? I've got some hot homemade beef stew that's just waiting for a strong man like you." The third woman, a bit plumper and just as underdressed, laughed flirtatiously. "And if you're looking for a wife, well, I'm available. I mean, I also make the best beef stew in the neighborhood. Rich, thick broth, guaranteed to satisfy." Every word made Jenny's blood boil even hotter. "Baby Joe," she whispered, adjusting the baby gently on her arm. "We've got a mission." The baby looked up at her and let out a happy little squeal. "Not now, baby," Jenny whispered with a small smile. "No giggling yet. I need your help. You still want to be a movie star when you grow up, right? Show Mommy Jenny how good your crying skills are. Loud and dramatic, okay?" As if he understood the assignment, Baby Joe burst into tears. Jenny could hardly believe it. He really was talented. Maybe he'd already seen Raphael and wanted to be picked up again. Either way, his timing was perfect. They'd only had him for a few days, but Baby Joe had already carved out a special place in their hearts. Jenny finally reached the group at the docks and smiled sweetly. "Honey," she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "I didn't realize you were done fishing with Dad. Our baby has been crying for you. He missed you so much." Raphael's brows furrowed in confusion, but when he saw Baby Joe crying, he immediately reached out to take the baby from her. The moment the baby was in his arms, the crying stopped and was replaced with a cheerful giggle. He just wanted Daddy Raphael, apparently. "Did you miss Daddy that much, Baby Joe?" Raphael said with a grin, bouncing the baby gently. He chuckled when the baby pinched his nose and let out another giggle. The three women, now watching the scene unfold, stared at Jenny in disbelief. One of them raised a suspicious brow. "Wait, Jenny, he's your husband?" one of them asked, clearly stunned. "And that's your kid? You've got to be kidding. What did you do? Put some kind of love spell on him? Is that it?" Jenny let out a sarcastic laugh before turning to face her head-on. "Why would I need a love spell?" she said with a bold smirk. "The first time he saw me, he was instantly head over heels. I mean, just look at me. Can you blame him?" "Maybe you're the ones who need a love potion to get the man you want," Jenny shot back, her voice loud and firm as she faced the flirtatious woman directly. The three women were left speechless. They simply glared at her before walking away in defeat. Jenny grinned proudly. She had won. Turning to the baby, still in Raphael's arms, she beamed. "You were amazing, Baby Joe. We really fooled them, huh? High five, baby," she said playfully, lifting his tiny hand for a gentle high five. Baby Joe giggled gleefully. Raphael, still holding the baby, smirked. "Jenny, why'd you come all the way out here? I was coming back inside the house in a minute." Jenny froze at the question. She searched for an answer. Baby Joe missed you. So, we came to get you." Raphael chuckled, his playful grin widening. "Is that the only reason you came? Or were you jealous?" he teased. "You don't have to be jealous, you know." "What are you even talking about?" Jenny cut him off quickly, flustered. "I just did it 'cause Dad was watching. Don't get weird ideas." She turned to Baby Joe again. "Come on, baby, let's go get some rest." With that, she gently took the baby from Raphael's arms and started walking back toward the house, deliberately not looking back at him. Raphael, however, simply laughed softly to himself and shook his head as he watched them walk away. Once she was far enough from the dock, Jenny stopped walking. Her heart was racing again. She shut her eyes tightly, her chest rising and falling. "Ugh," she muttered under her breath. "I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jealous earlier." She glanced down at the baby and whispered, "Baby Joe, I think I'm in trouble." He giggled again, grabbing at her nose gently with his tiny fingers. Then his tone dropped even lower. "But do you ever want to know what I'm feeling about you?" Jenny couldn't respond right away, especially when she felt Raphael's arm gently slip around her waist from behind. His hand rested there, almost like a half embrace, and she suddenly found herself unable to move. Why? She stammered. Is there something I need to know about how you feel about me? Her heart was racing uncontrollably, but instead of answering, Raphael shifted his gaze to her lips. She saw how slowly his face began to move closer to hers. In that moment, Jenny didn't know what to do. Her grip on the book tightened. Assuming Raphael was about to kiss her, she closed her eyes. A mix of nervousness and excitement surged through her chest. But before anything could happen, a familiar voice interrupted the moment. Hey, Jenny. Hey, Raphael. The guests are looking for you guys inside. What are you doing out here? Dahlia's voice rang out just before she stepped outside. Startled, Jenny panicked and shoved Raphael hard, causing him to fall backward out of the hammock. Ah! Raphael let out a yelp as he landed flat on his back in the sand, landing hard on his butt. Jenny was just as shocked by her own reaction. Oh my God, sis, Dahlia laughed. You two are totally flirting out here, huh? Don't worry, I'll take care of the guests. You guys enjoy. She winked at them before heading back inside the house. Jenny scrambled toward Raphael, who was still on the ground. Are you okay? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to push you that hard, she said, completely flustered, kneeling beside him. I think I broke a bone, Raphael groaned, eyes shut from the impact. That push was brutal. Where does it hurt? Jenny asked anxiously. Right here, Raphael pointed to his cheek. I think it needs a kiss to make it feel better. Oh, so that's what this is. Jenny narrowed her eyes. You just wanted a kiss from me. You think I'm that easy to fool? Before she could finish, Raphael surprised her again, this time with a quick kiss on the lips. Jenny froze in shock. It was just a brief kiss, but she was so stunned she couldn't even react. By the time she gathered her senses, Raphael was already on his feet and running away across the sand, laughing. You sneak! You really like stealing kisses, don't you? Just wait, Raphael. I'm coming for you, Jenny shouted, now laughing too, and took off running after him. Suddenly, the sky opened up and rain began to fall. Why are you chasing me? You want another kiss, don't you? Raphael teased over his shoulder. They were both laughing like kids as they chased each other through the rain, soaked but carefree. But Jenny suddenly stopped running. Her heart was pounding, not just from exertion, but from something else. She placed her hand over her chest, eyes shutting tight. Her heart wouldn't stop racing. And that's when it hit her. She understood now why she couldn't stay mad at Raphael earlier. She had been lying to herself all this time. A few days later, it was time for the town's festival. It was also their last week staying at her parents' house. Soon, they'd be heading back to Raphael's. Some relatives came over for the celebration. Even though the party was small, it was filled with laughter and food. Hey, Raphael! I got here first. Don't even try to sit down, Jenny exclaimed, startled when Raphael suddenly plopped down on the hammock beside her. They were outside, and she'd come out to enjoy the breeze on the hammock tied between two coconut trees. It was noisy inside from all the relatives laughing, playing, and fussing over baby Joe. There's plenty of room, Raphael said, raising both eyebrows smugly. Jenny pouted. Well, whatever. You're already sitting there anyway. But despite her tone, the redness in her cheeks betrayed her as their arms brushed. What are you reading? Raphael asked curiously, noticing the book she was holding. Jenny had been quietly reading on the hammock for a while, though it was getting harder to see as the sun began to set. The sky was now painted in soft orange hues, and the waves crashing against the shore added to the serene view. It's a book called The Happiest Baby on the Block by Dr. Harvey Karp, Jenny explained with a smile. Figured I should learn proper baby care, especially since baby Joe cries so much. There are tons of helpful tips in here. Raphael smiled at her. Sounds like a great book. Mind if I read it too? I'd like to know how to take better care of him. As he reached under the book to steady it, his hand unintentionally touched hers. They both looked at each other. Jenny's heart skipped. Yeah, it's a really good book, she stammered. I mean, once you get married and have your own kids, this'll really help you take care of them the right way. You won't feel so lost. Raphael didn't let go of her hand. His voice softened. That's what I like about you, Jenny. You take time to learn things you don't know yet. Then his tone dropped even lower. Over the next several days, her feelings for Raphael deepened. The more time they spent together, the more she got to know him. When they finally returned to the big house, things between them had grown even more natural. Thanks to the baby care book she had been reading, Jenny had learned even more about parenting. In the months that followed, they became fully immersed in taking care of baby Joe, bathing him, feeding him, putting him to sleep every night. They had become true parents to him. At this point, they felt like a real family. Neither of them even thought about the fact that this had all started as a contract. Jenny also realized that motherhood was far from easy, but the love she poured into nurturing and raising baby Joe gave her the strength and motivation to push through every challenge. Hey, baby, guess what? Daddy Raphael is home. Did you miss him? Jenny cooed as she cradled baby Joe in her arms. They were outside, waiting near the front of the house, when Raphael's sleek car pulled into the driveway. He stepped out, still in corporate attire, clearly just coming from work. Jenny's heart warmed when baby Joe clapped his tiny hands and giggled at the sight of Raphael. I went straight to the mall after work and bought a walking chair for baby Joe, Raphael said with a smile as he approached. He was carrying a pink baby walker. Wow, Daddy bought you a walking chair, baby, Jenny beamed at the baby. Want to try it out? At 8 months old, baby Joe was the perfect age to try it. They all went inside to the spacious living room so he could give it a try. Once Jenny placed him in the walker, baby Joe lit up with joy. Baby Joe waved softly as he began to take tiny steps in his walker. Come here, baby. Come to Mommy Jenny, she called excitedly. But instead of heading toward her, baby Joe waddled over to Raphael instead. Well, looks like he's not that into you, Raphael teased with a laugh. Jenny chuckled and shook her head, watching as the baby reached for Raphael's leg, trying to hug it. Raphael, noticing this, lifted baby Joe out of the walker and held him in his arms. He's definitely a daddy's boy, Jenny said with a soft smile as she stepped closer and gently rubbed baby Joe's back. Raphael looked at the baby in his arms and spoke in a calm, sincere voice. I'd give him the kind of life he truly deserves. Jenny's heart warmed at his words. Same here, Raphael. As long as we're here for him, we'll give him all the love he needs. We're in this together. For him, she replied with a warm smile. Through her experiences as baby Joe's stand-in mum, Jenny found herself deeply moved and inspired to write about a mother's unconditional love for her child. She poured her heart into a manuscript, hoping it could serve as an eye-opener for other women, highlighting the truth that abandoning one's child is never moral or acceptable, and that children deserve love, not neglect. She hoped no other baby would ever have to suffer the way baby Joe did, discarded like trash. She submitted her full manuscript to a traditional publishing house that was currently seeking inspirational non-fiction works. Just a few days later, while waiting for a call, Jenny received the unexpected news. Congratulations, Miss Garcia, the publishing house manager said on the phone. We are pleased to inform you that your manuscript has been accepted for publication. Jenny's eyes widened in disbelief. Wait, really? My manuscript was accepted? Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you so much, she exclaimed, her voice full of joy. It felt like winning the lottery. When she shared the good news with Raphael, he was just as thrilled. They even hosted a small celebration at home when the book was officially published. The title, You Matter, My Child. To her complete surprise, the book became a hit. In just 1 month, it soared to the top of bestseller lists. Jenny was overwhelmed with gratitude. The story that had come from such a painful and personal place now resonated with countless others. One sunny day, Jenny took baby Joe out to the park in his stroller. The lush green trees and plants surrounded them as children played nearby and families set up picnic blankets across the lawn. She was enjoying the quiet moment, watching baby Joe look around with wide-eyed wonder when suddenly a group of women approached her. They looked like mothers, most of them in their 30s, and they surrounded her with excited energy. "Excuse me, miss? Are you Jenny, the author of You Matter, My Child?" one woman asked with wide eyes. Jenny smiled shyly and nodded. "Yes, I am. I wrote the book." "Oh my gosh, I knew it was you," the woman gushed. "Can we get your autograph? We're huge fans. Your book made me cry so much. It really touched me. It reminded me how children are the greatest treasure a parent can ever have." Jenny's heart swelled. She smiled again, almost not believing how much her story had impacted others. It was surreal, but beautiful, to be surrounded by women who appreciated her voice, her heart, and the story she had poured her soul into. Jenny's heart was swelling with joy. One by one, fans lined up to have their book signed by her as she sat quietly on the park bench. She couldn't even count how many readers were there. The line just kept growing. A young woman stepped up next, but Jenny immediately noticed she wasn't holding a book like the others. She looked up just as the girl spoke nervously. "Excuse me, miss. I think this belongs to your baby." It was baby Joe's bracelet. "Oh gosh, that's baby Joe's. I didn't even realize he'd dropped it. Thank you so much." Before Jenny could finish, the girl quickly walked away. She looked about the same age as her younger sister, Dahlia. Jenny scratched her head and watched the girl leave, wondering if she was in a hurry or just shy. Brushing it off, she turned to the next person in line and kept signing books, her heart still in awe of how she had become a published author, something she had only dreamed of. When you want something, don't second-guess yourself. Just go for it. That had become Jenny's mantra. She kept repeating it to herself as she signed each book with gratitude, but then came someone unexpected. "Eight, Jenny. I'm really lucky to have you as my sister," said Dahlia with a big smile, handing her a copy of the book. "You have such a good heart. You truly deserve someone who will love you completely. I hope you live a long, happy life." Jenny blinked. "Wait, Dahlia, what are you doing here? And what do you mean long life? I don't have some terminal illness or anything." Dahlia just smiled mysteriously and stepped aside without answering. The next person in line shocked her even more. "Mum? You're here too?" Jenny gasped, seeing her mother holding a copy of You Matter, My Child. She signed the front page quickly, but her mum wasn't done. "You and your father raised us well," her mum said with tears in her eyes. "You have such a kind, nurturing soul. Even though baby Joe isn't your biological child, you loved him like your own. All I've ever wanted is for you to find a peaceful and joyful life with someone who will love you as much as you deserve." Jenny felt her chest tighten at her mum's heartfelt words. Then her father stepped forward in line, book in hand. "I had no idea you were this supportive of my writing, Dad," Jenny said with a playful chuckle as she signed his book. "You move me to tears, Jenny. I just want your heart to finally be at peace, with someone who will give you the kind of love you've always given others." Jenny smiled warmly, her throat thick with emotion. Before she could respond, her dad gave her a wink and walked off. Then came the last person in line, someone she really didn't expect. "Raphael?" Jenny gasped. "I thought you were working today and couldn't join us." Raphael didn't answer immediately. He just smiled warmly and held up a copy of her book. "I'm your #1 fan, Jenny," he said. "And now I know why your book became a bestseller. It's because you don't just write with your mind, you write with your heart." Jenny blushed and bent over to autograph the first page of his copy, but then something caught her eye. There, written under the title in big bold letters, "Will you marry me again?" Her eyes shot up. "Raphael, what is this?" she asked, completely stunned. Instead of answering, Raphael gently took her hand, prompting her to rise from the bench. Then, to the absolute shock of everyone watching, including Jenny, Raphael dropped down on one knee and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside, a glittering engagement ring sparkled under the afternoon sun. "Jenny," he began, his voice full of emotion, "we're not kids anymore. We don't need to hide how we feel. You know what's in my heart. just like I know what's in yours. So, can we start a new chapter? One that's real, without any pretending. One built on love, not just circumstance. Jenny's eyes filled with tears. She looked around and saw dozens of onlookers clapping, smiling, strangers and readers alike. Her mother held baby Joe proudly, who seemed to clap along with the crowd. Her family beamed with joy, and the energy around them was full of love, encouragement, and celebration. Jenny smiled through her tears as she stared down at the man who had once been a stranger in a contract, but now held her heart. "Did you ask my family to come here just for this?" Jenny asked in astonishment. "Yes, Jenny," Raphael replied gently. "I brought them here because I want your family to witness just how much I love you, with no more pretending. I've been watching you from afar for a long time, back when you used to sell pork rinds." Jenny's eyes widened. "Wait, what?" Raphael smiled. "If you didn't know, I was the one who told my driver to buy pork rinds from you every single day. I think you captured my heart from the very first bite of your chicharron, Jenny." Jenny blinked in disbelief. You were my regular buyer. You're Mr. Bossman. That was you all along?" Raphael nodded, smiling warmly. "That was me. And now I'm standing here, asking you something with my whole heart." He got down on one knee again and held up the shining engagement ring. "Jenny Garcia, will you marry me again and be with me forever?" Jenny could no longer hold back her tears. Applause erupted all around them, from the crowd, from her family, and even some joyful shouts rang out. "Ate, don't be so dramatic," Dahlia screamed. "Life is short. Say yes already." Jenny laughed tearfully and lowered herself just enough to cup Raphael's face in both her hands. As their eyes met, she smiled through the emotion and spoke the truth from her heart. "Of course, Raphael, I was always yours. So yes, I'll marry you again." Raphael grinned as he slipped the ring onto her finger, wasting no time before pulling her into an emotional, heartfelt kiss. And that was the true beginning of Jenny and Raphael's love story, one no longer built on pretense, but rooted in real love. Now that their pretend marriage had turned into something deeply genuine, their bond as a family with baby Joe only grew stronger and more enduring. What Jenny didn't expect, though, was that her writing career would flourish at the same time. With the royalties from her best-selling book, You Matter, My Child, she began earning a significant income. That financial security gave her the freedom to dream bigger. Raphael supported her every step of the way, encouraging her to pursue her goals before they walked down the aisle again. Their relationship, built on trust, honesty, and mutual respect, became the foundation that made them stronger. Jenny decided to return to college using the earnings from her book. Because of her deep love for children and the emotional weight of her own experience writing about a child abandoned by his mother, she set her sights on becoming a pediatrician. She completed her pre-medical coursework in biology, earned her medical degree, then finished her residency in pediatrics, working tirelessly for years. Eventually, she qualified to take the medical board exams, and after passing with flying colors, she finally fulfilled her long-held dream. Jenny was now a licensed pediatrician. There truly is no dream unreachable for someone with passion and determination. "Am I going to die?" asked a small, innocent voice. It came from Joan, better known as Baby Joe, now 7 years old. Jenny and Raphael exchanged a surprised look and chuckled, shaking their heads in amusement before turning to their daughter. "Sweetheart Joanna, why would you say something like that?" Jenny asked gently. "Well, Mommy, why did you bring me here to your hospital? And why does it look like you're going to poke my arm?" "Am I sick?" Joanna asked, eyes wide and anxious. "No, you're not sick, sweetheart," Jenny replied warmly. "We're just giving you a vaccine to protect your health from contagious diseases." They were currently at the hospital where Jenny worked, inside the pediatric department. The hospital was offering free vaccinations for children to boost their immune defenses. Jenny was wearing her white lab coat as she prepped everything. "Oh, I see. I got nervous for a second," Joanna said as she placed a small hand over her chest. Doc, looks like our daughter's ready. Go ahead and give her the shot. Sweetheart, aren't you scared of the big needle? You're not going to cry, are you? Raphael asked with concern. I'm strong, Daddy. I won't cry, Joanna bravely answered her father. Jenny began the procedure. She dabbed alcohol on a cotton ball and gently cleaned the skin on Joanna's upper arm to prevent infection. Moments later, she carefully inserted the needle. They all thought Joanna would be strong, just as she claimed, but the second the needle was pulled out, she burst into tears. Jenny and Raphael both sighed, then chuckled, moving quickly to comfort her. In the days that followed, Jenny's cheerful and energetic family began experiencing the fruits of her success. She gave her parents a much better life. She helped them open their own rice supply business and even had a large concrete house built for them, with 3 floors, each one fully air-conditioned. This was the reward Jenny earned through hard work and perseverance. Sweetheart, thank you. Even though you have your own family now, you've never forgotten us, her mother said, smiling through tears. We're so lucky to have daughters like you and Dahlia. Both of you have loved and cared for us so much, her father added, deeply moved. Jenny beamed with gratitude. No, we're the lucky ones. You and Mom raised us with so much love and strength.
I admire you both so much. As for her younger sister Dahlia, she had finally graduated and was now a full-fledged schoolteacher. How was school today, sweetheart? Is your teacher strict? Jenny asked her daughter as she and Raphael picked her up from school after work. Teacher Dahlia always looks serious, Mommy, Joanna answered innocently. Maybe she doesn't smile much because she still doesn't have a boyfriend. Hearing that, Jenny and Raphael burst out laughing and shook their heads. Well now, Joanna, Dahlia chuckled, playfully scolding her niece. You're getting a little cheeky, huh? Don't forget to do your homework, okay? Yes, Teacher Dahlia, Joanna replied sweetly. Dahlia gently stroked her niece's hair and turned to Jenny and Raphael. So ate Jenny, kuya Raphael. When are you finally going to get married again? It's about time you went on a honeymoon and gave Joanna a little brother or sister. Jenny smiled. Next month's the second wedding, Dahlia. She glanced at Raphael, who smiled back at her in that familiar, loving way. After their second wedding, they immediately began the adoption process to formally make Joanna their legal daughter. Their family life grew even more joyful, especially when Jenny found out she was finally pregnant. She was now 3 months along, and her baby bump was beginning to show. Joanna was ecstatic to know she'd have a sibling soon. Happy birthday, Joanna! Everyone cheered as the little girl blew out the candles on her cake. She had just turned 10 years old. Thank you, Mommy and Daddy, and thank you, everyone, Joanna shouted with glee. The celebration was held in the spacious backyard of their home. Family and friends had come to celebrate. Even Grandma Margaret, Raphael's grandmother, was in attendance, overjoyed to see how happy their family had become. Several of Joanna's friends and classmates were also there, running around and enjoying the party. So, sweetheart, what was your birthday wish? Raphael asked with a smile. My wish, Daddy, is that you wear Princess Liana's costume. So you can be my best friend, Joanna exclaimed excitedly. Everyone turned toward Raphael in surprise. Joanna was currently dressed as Princess Alexa from the Barbie and the Diamond Castle movie. The guests had assumed Jenny might wear a matching costume, but clearly it was Raphael who Joanna had in mind. This girl was definitely a daddy's girl. Babe, come on, do it for her, Jenny whispered with a playful grin, nudging him. It's just one day. Besides, I actually think you'd look cute in a Princess Liana dress. She winked at him. In the end, Raphael had no choice but to wear the Princess Liana costume. A full pink dress, matching pink shoes, a long wig and a tiny crown perched on his head. He was fully decked out as Princess Liana, best friend to Princess Alexa from Barbie and the Diamond Castle. In his entire life, he never imagined he'd wear anything like this. But he just sighed, smiled, and shook his head. For his daughter, he would do anything. As Raphael returned to the backyard in his Princess Liana costume, Joanna's face lit up with joy. Yay! Princess Liana's here, she squealed. Doesn't Daddy look great, Mummy? Jenny chuckled. Yes, sweetheart. He looks perfect. Laughter and cheer filled the party. One of the entertainers in a mascot costume had the kids in stitches, while Raphael and Jenny stood off to the side, smiling as they watched their daughter's happiness. Then one of their housekeepers approached. "Ma'am, sir," said Mrs. Helen, "a delivery just came for you." Jenny accepted it, confused. The older woman left as quickly as she arrived. "Did you order something online?" Raphael asked, still in his pink costume. Maybe one of Joanna's godparents sent a gift," Jenny replied as she began opening the parcel. But what they found inside was completely unexpected. "Wait, this is my book. Why would someone send this?" Jenny muttered. Before she could finish her thought, a folded piece of paper fell out. She picked it up, frowning slightly. It was a letter, a long one. "A letter? From who?" Raphael asked, peering over her shoulder. As they began to silently read it, a sense of unease settled between them. "Hello. I don't know where to begin. I won't include my name because I know I don't deserve to be known, especially not by her. I made a terrible mistake. I thought that if she disappeared from my life, I could forget what happened to me that night. I was raped. I was home alone. There was no one to help me. I couldn't even speak up for several days because my life was being threatened. But I still pushed through, went to the police, and the man responsible was arrested. But when I gave birth to the baby, I fell into deep depression, consumed by rage and trauma over what happened. I lost touch with my sanity. That's why I did what I did to her. I thought I'd be okay if she was no longer part of my life. But I was wrong. There hasn't been a single day that my guilt doesn't visit me. I can't sleep through the night. Sometimes I just want it all to end. But then, I saw her, in the park. She looked healthy, happy. She was with you. It felt like a thorn had been pulled from my chest. Thank you for giving her the world she deserves. Thank you for being the parents who could give her the love I couldn't. Please, don't tell her any of this. I don't want her to ever find out how she came to be. I don't want the world to judge her for how she was born. I'm sorry." Jenny read the letter, hands trembling as the weight of every word hit her. She covered her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. Raphael stood frozen for a moment before pulling her into a tight embrace, gently rubbing her back as she sobbed. Moments later, Joanna ran over to them. "Mommy, why are you crying? Are you sad because I made Daddy wear the Princess Liana dress?" "I'm sorry, Mommy. Please don't cry," Joanna said, her voice innocent and full of concern. She used her tiny hands to wipe the tears from Jenny's face as Jenny knelt in front of her. "No, sweetheart," Jenny said, smiling through tears. "Mommy's just really happy today because you look so beautiful." Then she pulled her daughter into a warm hug. "Daddy, why are you crying too? You don't like the Princess Liana dress?" Joanna asked, turning to Raphael. He let out a small chuckle between tears. "No, sweetheart. Mommy and I are just really happy because you're having a good time at your birthday party. We love you so, so much, and we'll do anything to make you happy." "I love you, Mommy and Daddy," Joanna squealed, her voice filled with glee. That made both of them tear up even more. The three of them hugged tightly. Later, Jenny and Raphael tried to investigate the sender of the letter. They wanted to help Joanna's biological mother, knowing she might still be struggling with trauma and in need of mental health support. Jenny even considered referring her to a close therapist friend. But despite their efforts, they never found out who the sender was. Perhaps the woman had chosen to disappear from their lives completely out of guilt for what she had done. Still, Jenny and Raphael only hoped she would eventually heal, because depression is never an easy battle to fight alone. When Jenny gave birth to their second child, they named her Ava. She was now 7 years old, with a round face and short hair, always full of energy and joy. She was loving, kind, and admittedly a bit mischievous at times, but that only made her more charming. Aisha was incredibly close with her older sister, Joan. Whenever she laughed, you couldn't help but smile back. It was just the kind of joy that lit up the room. "Mommy, Daddy, why are there so many kids here today?" I asked curiously, her eyes wide. "We're here to help them, sweetheart," Jenny answered with a warm smile, "because helping others brings blessings." Their family had been so blessed that Jenny and Raphael decided to pay it forward. They established a foundation to support street children, offering free education, housing, and medical care. With Jenny being a licensed pediatrician, they built services around what she could offer. They even poured $100 million into the foundation's mission. Their love for each other only grew stronger as they dedicated themselves to these children, kids who had almost lost all hope but now were given a future. "Mommy, Daddy, it's time to hand out the school supplies," Joan called excitedly. She was already 17 now, just a year away from adulthood. Brilliant and consistently on the honor roll, she made Jenny and Raphael proud every single day. As the distribution began, books, backpacks, shoes, uniforms, you could see the joy and hope radiating from the children's faces. "Thank you so much, Doctor. Jenny, you're not only beautiful but also so kind." One young girl beamed as she received her supplies. Jenny smiled back. "Study well, okay?" The next child to receive a bag smiled even wider when Aisha handed it over. Jenny and Raphael stood off to the side, watching their daughters, Joan and Aisha, playing along with the other kids, smiling from ear to ear. Then Raphael turned to Jenny. "Babe, I'm not sure if I've said this recently," he began, "but our kids are incredibly lucky to have you as their mother. You give them the kind of love and world they deserve. I really admire you." Jenny smiled through her tears. "And I admire you. You're an amazing father to our kids. I'm also happy we get to help these children have a brighter future." Before Raphael could respond, Aisha ran up to them. "Mommy, can you do story time now?" she asked, still out of breath from playing. "Yeah, Mommy," Joan chimed in. "The kids want to hear the new children's book you just released." Jenny couldn't say no to that. She walked up to the front while the kids, her husband and her daughters, sat cross-legged on the floor, waiting for her to begin. "All right, is everyone ready to listen?" Jenny called out. The children cheered, eager to begin. She turned to Raphael, who smiled proudly. Joan and Aisha beamed with excitement. Seeing her family happy and complete, that alone made Jenny's heart feel full. She opened the book and began reading. Their love story was like a book, each page filled with joy, sorrow, and lessons of hope. Everything they had gone through had only strengthened their bond. Like every good story, theirs was filled with trials. It was a baby who entered their lives and tested their character, ultimately inspiring them to become better people. Jenny and Raphael's love would continue to grow, chapter after chapter, fueled by the laughter and presence of their two daughters, who had become the treasures of their lives. The end. "Thank you all for listening to our story today," Jenny said warmly, "once again, and we'll see you again next time for another tale."